listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. I'm Geoff Schwartz alongside Marty. Hurney, GM Shuffle's been on DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. And Marty, we finished on NFL Sunday. We'll preview the big game tonight between the Eagles and the Packers in a little bit, but it felt like a little separation Sunday where we had teams in my book, maybe your book, we'll talk about in a second, go up after wins. And a lot of teams, unfortunately, I think went down yesterday as we now pass the halfway point in the NFL season where we start separating like the reals and the knots. And we saw a lot of not yesterday in my book and some good, obviously. But Marty, I want to start with the bad because I know that you're hot on this topic because it is rather surprising to see the end result in Miami where Buffalo was blown out by the Miami Dolphins. The Bills were the only team in the NFL to have 0 points at halftime across the league. And another weekend where we had a lot of scoring, 30-13, Miami beat the Bills as nearly a double-digit underdog. And the Bills, I think, are in a bad place even after beating Kansas City, Marty. What are your thoughts on this one?
This is a game, Geoff, that, I kept thinking, because, we both know. We know Brandon Beane. We know Sean McDermott. But, boy, whenever I see a game like that, I just think of what that plane ride home is like. And what you're doing is you're watching the game. You're watching the tape of the game on the way back. Nobody should really be saying a whole lot. You're as a general manager, you and the head coach are maybe exchanging comments. If you sleep at all, you do it very quickly. You get in the office real early. You watch the tape again. But today's a day where I think this is more than a loss, and I think this is more than we're coming off a big one against Kansas City. Players after the game said they did not play that with as much energy as the Dolphins did, and that worries me when players say that. And I think this is a day where the Bills really have to get together with the front office, the head coach. I'm sure the owner is going to want answers. And I first question you ask yourself is, okay, what were our expectations coming into the season? What did we think we are? Are we that now? And I think the answer is no. So now the toughest question is why? And, the pat answers, the answers you're usually going to get is, well, injuries or we miss this guy and this and that. But it's deeper than that, Geoff, I think. And you really have to, the front office, the coaching staff, the players, the whole football operation, you have to look at the whole thing and say, what is wrong? I keep reading where Josh Allen is frustrated. Why? And he hasn't played like he has played in previous years consistently this year. And this is one of the toughest parts of being a head coach, a general manager, is when things go wrong like this. And there's a sign. I mean, this is a sign. Something was not right. Hasn't been really there for the last 4 or 5 weeks. It played well against the Bills. Everybody's going to point to different things, and the injury thing obviously is a factor, but everybody has injuries. So, what is a problem? Is there an underlying problem here? When players come out and say the other team play with more energy, that's a concern to me. And that really that points to coaching some, but it just points to whether it's a lack of communication, frustration, whatever it is, that really concerned me when I heard that. So I think there's got to be some very good self-evaluation, but the most important thing is you have to be honest about it. And sometimes they're hard answers, sometimes they're hard solutions, but if you're not honest about it, then it's only going to get worse.
The lack of energy is interesting because you don't hear that often with good teams in the NFL. You might hear it in college. College is emotional, right? 18, 22-year-olds, Marty, they're more prone to ups and downs. And I think that's the part that worries both of us, right? Is you just beat Kansas City, and that game should not feel like your Super Bowl anymore. You've beaten them 5 years in a row now. the point is to get ready to play them in the postseason, right? Like that's your nemesis at the moment. And you had a game where, yeah, you might not cover, fine, but just win the game, right? Win by a point, do something.
Right.
And even when they were losing, there wasn't this fight I think we thought we'd see from Buffalo. I mean, Josh Allen was fighting. He was playing hard. He had some bad interceptions, some bad turnovers. That happens, right? But the run defense, which has been struggling, the Dolphins are not good enough to take advantage of that. And they did. I mean, there was I think Achen's first touchdown run right up the middle. I mean, there was a guy in the hole, blew a tackle. Linebackers didn't get off blocks. The other safety didn't fill fast enough. And Achen, like, you can't have that if you're Buffalo, right? So, and then the point that you made, I think it's important to note here is, how are we adapting offensively without the weapons that we thought we had? I think it's fair to say, Marty, that the wide receiver room in Buffalo has not been what they expected. And it does hold them back a little bit. We saw against Kansas City, they used the tight ends. Now, Kincaid got hurt. He had a big game until he got hurt. He did have a bad drop, but it was raining, and I'll give him a pass on that one maybe. So now you're down Kincaid. Now you're down other guys. How do we figure out an offense? What do we pivot to next? We have a good offensive line, a good running back, a good quarterback. We should be able to find some offense against the Miami Dolphins. And I think the issues that we thought Buffalo had before they played Kansas City, and maybe that was an aberration, I don't know. But they're still there, Marty, and they're still there in a big way for a team that we expect to be contending for an AFC Championship. On top of that, New England keeps winning. So now they fall another game back in the division. They were nearly, you had to lay 300 to win 100 before the season started for Buffalo to win the division. Like, they were huge favorites to win the division. And New England's getting better every week, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in a few minutes. And Buffalo's falling back, and those things are very concerning.
Yeah, I mean, forget about New England. You don't have any business thinking about the division right now. You just went down to Miami and got waxed, right? And Buffalo is a better team than Miami Dolphins. They just are, okay? And, you're talking about how do you win games? And everybody has always been focused on Josh Allen is so good. You win with Josh Allen running the ball and then throwing the receivers. This team, this offense has a different identity this year, in my opinion, and I think it showed up again yesterday. James Cook had 13 carries for 53 yards. He has gained under 100 yards in 3 games this season, and all 3 they lost. You look at the other side, and Devon Achen, who we talked about, I love this kid, ran for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 carries, and he had 51 receiving yards in it with 6 catches. So, he basically, the Dolphins did with him what I think the Bills should have and need to do with James Cook. And I just think that there is some identity factor missing with this Bills team right now on both sides of the ball. Listen, the defense has had a ton of injuries, and I get that, but you have to be able to adjust in this league because the injuries are just the fact of life. And I just think that there's something there that has to be addressed, and the only people that can figure it out are inside that building.
So if you're in the building this morning, Marty, and you watched that film, I was, by the way, never a plain film guy. The film was still there on Monday morning. I'm going to enjoy my plane ride, win or lose. I never understood, I get why coaches did it. You have to evaluate right away. Yeah. Players would just they'd hop on that iPad. I'm like, buddy, the film will still be there after you land. Enjoy the win for a few minutes. Enjoy, just sit in your pity for a little bit after a loss. What would you do? I think offensively, I think it's time to sort of do what the Rams and Seahawks are doing with the tight ends, right? It's to go to 13 personnel, 12 personnel, hunker down in formations, and use that to actually pass the football, Marty. The Rams yesterday used their tight ends the entire game. The Seahawks have done it all season long, right? It's that you have tight ends. Start using those guys. Get Josh Allen rolling out of the pocket on move the pocket type stuff. Just sort of move the launch point, get in different formations, and use those tight ends. That's what I would do, considering they have the wide receivers they have. And I'm curious if Brady moves in that direction. What would you do if you're Buffalo right now?
Well, I think you have to, you would sit down with the head coach and have a long, honest talk. And, the first part of the meeting is going to be, okay, yes, we lack depth at receiver and may need a receiver. And yes, we do have injuries on the defense side ball, but it is what it is right now. The trade deadline's passed. We tried to make some moves. We couldn't do it. Everything was too expensive. Injuries, guys are going to come back when they got to come back. What can we do now? And I think you have to go over every coach, every coaching philosophy. Maybe you need to make it clearer what your identity is, but there's got to be some really hard, honest conversations between the general manager and the head coach and figure out what you can do to turn things around right now. And right now, you have to take the positive approach. You can't say the glass is half empty. It's got to be half full, and you've got to get solutions to what the problems are.
Do you think anything less of Buffalo if you project them out in the postseason? I don't yet. Now, they don't have a 1 seed. I might feel differently, but I still think they have a game against the Patriots left. The Patriots at some point, we'll talk about them, I think have to come back to earth a tiny bit. But I don't feel that much differently about them because Josh Allen is still that guy. And until they falter in the postseason against someone who's not named Kansas City, I haven't changed my mind about them. Maybe I'm too slow to move on them, but I think they'll figure it out. So it's a blip now, but to me, it's not enough to change my opinion about them moving forward.
I think it was so important for them to get the home field, Geoff, because it's such a strong home field advantage in the playoffs that I think that it was very important for them to do that. Now, I think the goals are different. Now you just have to figure out what is wrong. And again, I agree with you. I think it can be turned around, but it's not going to be turned around by just saying, "Oh, we didn't play hard enough yesterday, or we're not good enough." You have to figure out the solutions moving forward.
Well, one team that figured out a solution, and we're going to give credit to, is the Detroit Lions. We're going to do that in just a few minutes. We'll talk about their big win, their dominating win, what Dan Campbell did that's unique, I think, in the coaching profession, taking control of your team and making sure that you're the guy that wins or loses. We'll do that next on GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. We talked a little negative about Buffalo, Marty. Let's flip it to some positive about the Lions here. They win 44-22 on the road against Washington. Jared Goff, 25-33 for 320. Gibbs, incredible game, 142 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, plus added a receiving touchdown as well. Jameson Williams, 119 yards. Montgomery had 71 on the ground. Just an overall dominating performance by the Lions. But the news out of this game was Dan Campbell was calling the plays, Marty. And look, if you watch the game, you saw he had his play sheet. He looked like he was very involved in it. And he discussed afterwards, he decided to take control of the play call because he wanted to basically own the offense himself, and that he felt it was a decision that had to be made. And you think to yourself, why, right? The Lions offensively have been playing good for the most part. They had a little bit of a blip against the Vikings. It happens, right? You're going to lose a game, and can't say it wasn't great. Otherwise, they scored a ton of points. But I think we both love that instead of delegating and hoping it gets fixed, Dan Campbell said, nope, this is my offense. It's my team. I'm going to fix it myself. And we both love that he decided that basically, it's his team, right? But how many coaches delegate it out? No, I'm going to fix the problem. I'm going to do it myself. And he deserves credit because Ben Johnson's doing well in Chicago, but I think we all thought the offense was solely Ben Johnson. It's very clear Dan Campbell had a big role in what the Lions were, and now he has a big role in what they're going to be moving forward in with this offense.
I tell you, after that, he's my coach of the year vote right now, Geoff, because doing what he did is very hard for head coaches to do. And Dan Campbell's not one of these guys, these play callers that, think that they got to call the plays and just throw plays out there. Dan Campbell is a football coach, and he is a head football coach. And the best way to coach your coaches is to show them what you want. And he said that. He said, listen, it's easier for me to just do it. I know what I want and show them how I want to do it. And basically, he simplified things. He wants to have a physical mentality. He wants to have aggressive mentality. And he just felt like it was time to call plays, and they weren't in the middle of a disaster. I mean, they lost the game, but it was nothing like it was a critical need on offense. He just saw something that he thought wasn't being done exactly how he wanted it. His thumb is on the pulse of this team in every area, and it's what really good head coaches do, and I think that we have seen this year more than ever, and he's really been that way for several years, but this year more than ever, how good a head coach Dan Campbell is.
Absolutely. What is that conversation like in the building between him and Johnny Morton? He's still the OC, he's just not the play caller now. Do you think that was Campbell's decision solely? Did general manager Brad Holmes have a say in this? How does that conversation go? Does it happen Monday? Does it happen at Sunday night after the Lions lose to the Vikings? Marty, in your history, I'm sure it's happened a couple of times where you've had these discussions with coaches. How does that go down?
Yeah, I mean, it probably happens Monday morning, after, not Sunday night, but Monday morning. And, knowing Dan Campbell, it was just a straightforward, honest conversation. And it wasn't anything negative about Johnny Morton and the way he was doing things. It was just that, listen, this is the way I want it done. And the best way for me to show you how I want it done and get there is for me to call the plays. And I think that he will continue to do that now, obviously. And he said after the game, listen, he still got input from everybody. I mean, listen, Dan Campbell is not an I guy. He's a we guy. And he didn't do this to take it over for personal attention or personal reasons. He thought it was best for the team. And I think he just has the ability to sit down and be very honest and straightforward. And I always say with players, people might not, when you bring a player in and you release them, or they might not like what you say, but if you're honest with them and straightforward, they appreciate that. And I think that's probably the way Dan Campbell handled the situation.
We do appreciate the honesty. So this brings up a good topic, Marty, about play callers. So you're right. Dan Campbell said after the game that it was a collaborative effort. And for the most part, it is. I think that the football fan doesn't realize the process that goes into building a game plan and how much input coaches that are not the play caller have in it. So, for example, the offensive line coach does the run game. It might be the most important thing that no one knows that happens. So the formations and the general plan is by the offensive coordinator. And then the offensive line coach builds the run game by himself most often around what the formation game plan of the week are. Like the OC spends no time on that. Now, they're going to pair up the play action pass with some of the runs, but that's the offensive line coach. And then let's say the running back coach has short yardage and goal line. And that's what they do. And then the quarterback coach does third down. And the wide receiver coach does the red zone. And so everyone has a little part of the game plan. It all comes together onto the play sheet. And yes, the play caller has final say, but they're going to radio down, hey, it's 3rd and 1. What do you like here? And the person who's in charge of that game plan for that week is going to say, I like this player. Hey, give me a run here on 2nd and 10. The offensive line coach will so it's never just one person doing the whole thing. And I think people get that, but just wanted to lay that out, that what Campbell says is collaborative. It is. He's asking guys all the time, what should we do here? What do you like? And then also too, because it's important, I think people just forget this, that there is play sequencing that's very important, right? You might run a play in the first quarter that gains 3 yards, but that play gains you 75 yards on a touchdown later in the game because you set something up. So all that process is done with the play caller and the coaches to prepare those situations. So just want to reiterate that, Marty, that it is a collaborative effort. Now, on defense, I don't know. Never played defense. I don't think they do that on defense, Marty, but I know offensively it's done all together as a group.
In Dan Campbell's case, I think it was as much as he wants this team to have a certain identity. And he wants a physical identity, both sides of the ball, but he wanted the offense to have the identity that he envisions it having. And the best way for him to get there was to call plays. And again, I don't think he took it over because he wanted to be creative and call this and that. He saw an identity maybe slipping away a little bit. And the impressive thing is, before it became a disaster, Geoff, he saw it. He saw the problem and he took care of it. And that is harder than it sounds in the NFL.
If you like what you're hearing here in the GM Shuffle, there's even more VSiN Pro betting splits, power ratings, sharp analysis. All for just $9.99 in your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all the subscription options. Another coach, Marty, that is really taking control of his team is Mike Vrabel in New England. Vrabel had his Patriots go into Tampa Bay. I like Tampa. I don't know if you like Tampa, but it was certainly a play that a lot of us liked in the football world, considering Tampa was off a bye. They got healthy in the offensive line. And the Patriots won 28-23. Tampa scored, I believe, early on. I think scored the 7 points, and then New England blew them out from there. Really, New England won in the trenches. But, Vrabel's been aggressive all season. I'm curious what you thought about how he handled the end of the first half. So New England had the ball at the 1 yard line. Tampa Bay didn't have any timeouts, or maybe had one timeout. Ball's at the 1. They're down 14-10 or 10. I think it was 10-7. Tampa's up 10-7. New England gets the ball out of the half as well. So I'm setting this all up for you guys. First play of that drive, they intentionally go down. Like Drake May has a quarterback sneak. He falls down. I hated it. I'll explain in a second. The next play, they get stuffed. The next play, they get stuffed. And then they finally score. Stephon Diggs makes a great catch to end the half on a 4th down conversion, Marty. Who, buddy? You're not guaranteed points in the NFL, man. It's not the final play of the game. It's the first half. And that could have really backfired on Vrabel, Marty. It didn't. It worked. But man, it's a great thing to say you did well. And it's great to bring up in the team meeting today. Hey man, we executed that exactly like I wanted to. But yikes, man, if that wouldn't have worked, that would have been a pretty big scar on their game on Sunday.
And see, I've always said, and listen, I know I'm an old school guy, right? But I think analytics has made people overthink things sometimes, Geoff. And to me, that's a classic example of probably analytics being involved in making you overthink that situation. And I just a little bit out of character. Really for Vrabel, but it worked. And as John Fox always said, better and lucky and good. And it worked for him. So, but if it didn't, he would have been getting a lot of questions about it.
People always do the thing where they say you left someone too much time. And I always bristle back on that because you have to score first. And that's hard to score. And and correct. And the thing about we scored too fast. You had to score, though. The idea you can pick and choose in the NFL when to score is really silly to me because we saw in this situation, they got stuffed twice the 1 yard line, right? And then barely scored a touchdown. They needed Stephon Diggs to make an incredible catch, get both feet down. If he just gets pushed a tiny bit and 1 foot's out of bounds, the Patriots look like fools.
You're really don't get my blood boiling, but that's the thing about analytics is all about possessing the ball. Don't give the ball to the other team. Listen, Joe Gibbs always said, if you have the ball with under 2 minutes in the first half, okay, you should either score or end the half with the ball. Don't give them back the ball. But to your point, if you have the chance to score. And I think that the whole analytics thing about possessing the ball and not giving it to the other team, just focus on the task at hand, and that's getting the ball into the end zone.
I agree. New England, by the way, I mean, look, I keep doubting them. They've now beaten Buffalo. They've now beaten Tampa Bay. As of right now, they are 8-2 alongside the Indianapolis Colts, who are 8-2, and the Denver Broncos, we're not going to get to Thursday Night Football, but yikes. I mean, sure, the Broncos are 3-0 when they scored less than 20 points this season. The rest of the NFL is 3-41. So is this sustainable? I don't think so. I think they're terrified of Bo Nix. We talked about this for weeks now. It looked that way. But hey, man, Marty, a win is a win. And we're going to talk about a game tonight with the Packers and Eagles. Someone has to win. Someone needs to win this game. We'll do that next. I'll do it presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
All right, we're back on the GM Shuffle here. We'll have Marty's corner on analytics a little bit maybe later this year, probably at some point in the offseason here. But we have a big game tonight. Eagles at the Packers. Packers 5-2-1. Eagles 6-2. This game bouncing back and forth, but right now Eagles are getting a 1.5. Total's 45.5. And look, I've been very clear on where I stand with the Packers, Marty. I think they're a team that is a little fugazi. You think about their wins. They beat the Lions week 1, great, right? You had Micah Parsons there. The Lions' worst game of the year looked off. You beat a Commanders team. I think Daniels was still playing then. Good, okay. Yes. Then you lose to the Browns. You tie the Cowboys. You beat the Bengals by 9. You beat the Cardinals by 4 in a game you were trailing the entire game. You beat the Steelers, who we now sort of agree aren't very good. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that. He lost the Panthers, who just lost to the Saints, who are the weirdest team in all the NFL. I think tonight the Eagles are going to come in there. They're off a bye, and they're just going to go right at the Green Bay Packers. This is the time of the season. The Eagles, over the years, outside of the 1 year, it was a 23. It kind of melted down. For the most part, middle of the season, after a bye, their offensive line picks it up. The defensive line picks it up. We saw this last season. I think the Eagles go in tonight and handle business against the Packers. I think they're better. I think they're better all over the field. We talk about this with the Packers. You've said this. I've actually repeated what you have said to other people on other shows. That like, what scares you about Green Bay? What scares you about their offense? So I like the Eagles tonight to handle business and win this game. What do you think?
I love the Eagles tonight, Geoff. I'm right with you. So that's the biggest hurdle they have to overcome is the fact that I love them tonight. But I mean, I'm telling you, I think, the Eagles defense is going to get pressure on Love. I don't see the receivers getting separation in that secondary. And the Packers don't seem to be able to force the ball deep. I just don't know how they move the ball much or score much against this Eagles defense. And I think offensively, the Eagles are starting to really find their way again. And this is a team that went through some bumps, and we expect so much of them. We probably criticized them when they didn't deserve to be criticized, but I think they've overcome those bumps. I think they come in here, national audience, Monday night. They're going to show everybody why they're the defending Super Bowl champions, and I think they're going to play extremely well tonight.
I'm curious about the weather, because we had some fun weather yesterday. It was a little blustery in Chicago yesterday for the Giants and Bears game. And it's not bad tonight. 30 degrees. I was hoping for like a weird weather game. That would have been a lot of fun. The Eagles game right there. All right, Marty. As I mentioned at the top, yesterday felt like sort of a separation Sunday, where to me a lot of teams went up and then a lot of teams went down. So if we look at the up teams, okay, we talked about New England already. It was an ugly win for the Colts, but you need those wins. So I have the Colts up, right? The Bears 6-3. They went up yesterday. The Ravens, who are now big favorites to win the division, they went up. We talked about New England. They went up in my book. Seattle, a huge win. The Rams look great. The Lions look great. The Chargers 7-3 now. The teams I mentioned, which is a lot of them, which up team, the team that really I think is on the rise after yesterday, was most impressive to you outside of Tampa? I mean, out of New England. We talked about them already.
I would say I've got to go with two. I think the Rams, and I think the Rams have quietly been impressive the last month or so. And Matt Stafford, he's got to be one of the three in the MVP voting right now, to me, along with Drake May and Jonathan Taylor, who we can talk about later. But the Rams are playing extremely well. They'd probably be it. I like the way the Colts came back and won, and I want to talk about that game with you because you have been talking about Daniel Jones, and I think there are some things you've been saying that are coming out and showing itself. But, in the NFC, I think I like the Eagles and I like the Rams. And obviously the Seahawks are playing well this game next week. Sunday's going to be an extremely critical game in the West.
Man, the Rams, I love them all preseason, Marty. And then, all this news about Matt Stafford, his back and how he's going to play. And I foolishly jumped off of them. Now, I didn't really jump off of them, but I think I wavered on their success this year. Right now, second in the NFL in DVOA, so that's efficiency, right? They're seventh on defense. They're second on offense. Matt Stafford I don't think he's won an MVP before, but he's well on his way, if he continues to play this way, to win an MVP. I love the aggressiveness that McVay calls a game with. Now, I know Rams fans will say, well, on fourth down, he's less aggressive. Oh, okay, you're right. He made some mistakes on fourth down. I think some of going back to the Niners game a few weeks ago, the one they lost, bad fourth down run call. But what impresses me about his play calling, Marty, is whenever you think they're going to do something, they do the opposite. So I'll give you an example. The Niners come down the field and score a touchdown to go. It's 28-20 now, okay? Fourth quarter. You think to yourselves, it's a run the ball situation, right? Let's run the ball. Let's run off clock. Let's get a field goal. No, pass, run touchdown. That type of stuff to me is what makes McVay a really good head coach. Later in the game, a big third down. It's a run situation. Oh, we passed the ball. Another big game, right? And we talked about the tight end usage they had yesterday. We're seeing Seattle and Los Angeles go to a lot of tight ends. Davante Adams and Matt Stafford now are really connecting. We saw that nice little route he ran back corner of the end zone. No one in the NFL is guarding that route. Just not going to happen. But Parkinson had 4 receptions. Higbee had 3. Ferguson had 1. So they're spreading the ball around, Marty. I love what the Rams are doing. We know their defense can get after it. And so I just like the vibe of the Rams right now.
I'm with you. And you mentioned Davante Adams, Geoff, and he got dinged up yesterday. I think I'll be watching
he didn't play in the back half of the game.
On the injury report this week because he has become a very important part. And sort of like the Cowboys, when CeeDee Lamb got hurt and went out, and then George Pickens and Dak kind of got a chemistry going. Well, when Puka Nacua went out, in the early games, Davante Adams and Matt Stafford weren't hooking up as much. And then they got a chemistry when Puka's out. Now he comes back, and they're just that much better offensively. They've got a lot of weapons, and as you say, they got one of the best offensive minds as a head coach in the league.
It's really fun to watch. So you mentioned the Colts here, Marty. So the Colts, a game in Berlin, kind of a gross-ish game, but Jonathan Taylor is, the 83-yard touchdown run he had. There was a picture I put out on my Twitter at Geoff Schwartz where there was basically he was laying a ball of bodies and popped out. And had a big gain there. I believe it was 3 rushing touchdowns again for him yesterday. It was. So 32 carries, 244. And the Daniel Jones was okay, but I think we're starting to see a little bit of the chinks in the armor and why I just don't trust him over the long haul. What did you see from Jones now? Kind of 2 weeks in a row of a little bit of regression.
I was thinking about you that entire game when I was watching it because he fumbles, he throws an interception, and honestly, Geoff, in the second half, didn't Shane Steichen take the ball out of his hands? I mean, they gave it to Jonathan Taylor, right, and said, "Here, it's your game, go win it." And not that Daniel Jones played poorly, but he was not having a great day, I don't think. And Shane Steichen felt that. And they didn't put a lot on him. And really it was same on the other side. I mean, Michael Penix is still very inconsistent. And he kind of showed that in college. So that's something that we've got to keep tracking. But, Bijan Robinson Tyler Algier, so I love coming out of BYU. They rushed combined for almost 200 yards themselves. So it was more of a running back dominated game than it was a quarterback dominated game. But the Colts found a way to come in and win a game like that. That's what good teams do. And coming off that loss and winning that game, I think was huge for them.
Being able to just say we're putting the ball in our running back's hands is a great positive for the Colts. I agree with you there. Like that should be viewed as maybe a knock on Daniel Jones, but also a positive for just being able to do multiple things. As far as the Falcons, Kyle Pitts has got to catch the football. That plays a big role early, how the Falcons started. He just routinely hasn't been able to do that, which has really hurt them. The Falcons are a team that I think every week we don't know what we're getting from them, so it's hard to really kind of pin them down. Marty, another game that, the Bears are 6-3 now. About 2 weeks ago, I think a lot of us were like, Caleb Williams, I don't know. And we talked about this, right? Like every quarter getting better. It feels like as the second quarter of the season ended and the third quarter has begun, Williams is starting to turn that corner a little bit. He's making plays with his legs. His eyes are staying downfield. He made some nice runs. I still think there is a lack of timing sometimes in the offense where he pulls his eyes down too soon and he's not really in rhythm passing, but he's quick enough and able to make a couple of those plays where it doesn't matter as much. And the Bears come from behind again, man. The Giants lose again with a big lead. Now Dart gets hurt, fair enough. But what do you see from Williams now as we head into sort of the third quarter of the season?
He's doing exactly what I think we said he would do, is just get better every week with Ben Johnson. And listen, young quarterbacks need consistent continuity with coordinators and good coordinators. And I just said at the beginning of the year, if Caleb Williams did not progress and improve with Ben Johnson, then they picked the wrong guy. They did not pick the wrong guy. And Geoff, in college, when I saw Caleb Williams, you're saying, man, he really separates himself. He could be a generational quarterback, his physical talent. And that's what he shows. And when he gets outside, he's got that ability to keep his eyes downfield and make plays when there's pressure with him. He's very calm. He can make plays with his legs. That's what he's starting to do. And I attribute Ben Johnson to it, but I don't think people really appreciated how good Caleb Williams was when he came into this.
It's just hard when you play with a bad coach, right? And it's hard to evaluate a quarterback. It's basically wasted a year. Now he's a real coach, and we're seeing some real improvement. Okay, looking forward to seeing him down the stretch now. We talked about some good. We're talking about some bad. Maybe one team in that division as well that I'm kind of worried about. That includes the Minnesota Vikings. We'll do that next. We'll have our best bets as well. So we'll give you best bet for the week. That's next on Jim Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. In about 10 minutes, we'll get our best bets for the rest of the week. We might throw something your way for tonight's game as well, if you're listening to this on Monday before the Eagles and the Packers play, Marty. So I mentioned we had some teams up and some teams down. And the first team that I saw yesterday that I wasn't really high on, but I kind of think they really are not going to be a playoff team, is the Minnesota Vikings. They're 4-5 now. They lose to the Ravens. The final score was closer than the game. They did have a fumble return, a fumble and a kickoff that really propelled the Ravens to take the lead. But McCarthy just wasn't good. And I think we overhyped him after the Lions game. The Lions, to me, that was more about the Vikings defense. And the Vikings defense just wore down this game. They couldn't get to Lamar, and then Lamar was able to find guys open. They stopped the run okay, but again, it wasn't like the most dominant performance. But they also got no help from McCarthy, who threw 2 interceptions in this game. They also didn't run the ball well. McCarthy was the leading rusher for the Vikings, which is not where you want to be. The Vikings just don't look crisp right now on either side of the ball, and I'm out of McCarthy right now. I might not be in the season, Marty, but I don't. When you look at their division, with Chicago ascending, with the Lions ascending, with the Packers, I think are still good, but we don't think as good as their record. The Vikings might end up 4th in this division.
Yeah, they very easily could, and not have a losing record, really. Maybe. I mean, I like what this team's doing. And I do think JJ McCarthy's got a chance. Listen, he hasn't played a lot of games. Just let him finish this season, stay healthy, and see how he improves as the season goes on. But the Vikings beat themselves, Geoff. And we were talking before we came on, is that 8 false start penalties at home. Okay, so why is that? Is it because the Ravens defensive line and their pass rush is worries you so much that you're trying to get off the ball too quickly? It's not going to be the fans, not going to be the noise. I just, the Vikings kept this game close for 3 quarters, basically. And in my mind, they just beat themselves. Now, listen, the Ravens are getting better. And I think Draymond Jones pickup helps them considerably, as far as, not that he's Justin Matabuki, but he kind of fills a little partial of the role that he played. And the Ravens are getting pressure and running the ball and getting back to who they were. But I thought the Vikings still had a chance and hung in there. They just made too many turnovers, too many penalties.
Yeah, the false starts are interesting. I don't know. I don't get why. You're at home. I mean, cadence concerns, I guess, could be part of that, Marty. I don't really have a great answer for you. I'm curious as we get into this week if they talk to them about what happened, but it shouldn't happen that way. Another team that I think is, I'm not worried about them for the reasons I think other people are, as the Commanders are at 3-7 now. What I saw yesterday was a team that lacked a lot of discipline, Marty. A guy was ejected for punching a Lions player. There was very clearly emotional, frustration from, I think it's how their season's going, right? That they thought they were going to be better this season, and they're not handling it very well. And I'm not saying Dan Quinn's losing the team, but it looks like the team is losing itself. And the loss is the loss. Look, the Lions are great in off a loss and in revenge spots. There's a revenge spot, off a loss, in all the makings. And look, the Lions were trying to embarrass them. They absolutely were. That's the end of that's sports, man. You're gonna get embarrassed sometimes. But to have Payne, deck Amon-Ra St. Brown like that, to have some of the stuff after some of the PATs, Marty, it does feel like Dan Quinn is losing this team. I'm not saying it's Dan Quinn's fault. I'm on the locker room. But someone's got to step up as a leader on that team and say enough is enough. And I don't know who that person is, whether it's Biotic, a center. I would imagine he's pretty involved in that, whether it's someone on defense. But losing happens. You can't act the way you did yesterday.
Yeah, it's frustration. I mean, Deron Payne, that surprised me because he's not that kind of player. I mean, it surprised me when I saw that. But, this is a team that made the NFC Championship. I mean, just skyrocketed last year, right out of nowhere. Skyrocketed, made the NFC Championship game. And this year they have had a ton of injuries on the offensive side of the ball, receivers. Listen, they need Jaden Daniels in there to really be competitive and to win games, and he is out. And their defense is going to be something they need to work on in the offseason. They need to get younger and faster moving into next year. And those are two things with the defense and Jaden Daniels not being there, that they're going to have a hard time winning games without those two things being where they're supposed to be, and the defense isn't getting any better right away. And Jane Daniels is going to be out for a few weeks, so more at least. So, I don't think what happened last night surprised many people. I think that Detroit is one of the top teams in the NFC, and the Commanders have just had so many injuries. They're not the team we saw last year for a lot of reasons, but I think Jaden Daniels is critical whenever he's in there. They have a chance to win games. When he's not, I don't think they have a very good chance. So I think frustration probably answers a lot of what concerns you. And they just have to hang in there and start looking for answers moving forward.
The 49ers got blown out by the Rams. They beat the Giants a couple weeks ago. They lost the Texans. I think it's as simple as the injuries on defense are just a problem, Marty. I mean, I heard, I think Robert Saleh after the game, or not even Robert Saleh, maybe it was someone in the locker room talk about how, they're just young and they need guys to step up. Yeah, you do. But you're also out Warner and Bosa, and Williams is now out. And they just look like a defense. They're trying their best. It's just not good enough. They don't have enough guys. They've lost 3 of their last 5. And as hard as they try offensively, Mac Jones is not dynamic enough, I think, to carry a bad defense. And they don't have the weapons at wide receiver to overcome a bad defense. They're trending down, but to me, it's not like anyone's fault. It's just sort of the injury luck is not good on their side again. And it's been years and years of that, but it does feel like they're going to spiral pretty soon. Now, the schedule's a joke. It's Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, Titans, Colts, Bears. I mean, they could win all 6 of those games, Marty, and still make a playoff, right? And be 12-4, which is kind of wild. But it does feel like they're just trending down.
Yeah, because of injuries, right? And arguably they're in the toughest division in the NFL, in the NFC West right now. I think that listen, it's funny because I had said Warner is the key, is the glue to that defense. So what I do when he got hurt, I bet against them the following week they win, and I don't think they've won since because he was such an important part of that defense. He's the quarterback of that defense, and they are not as good without him. But all the injuries around it, I think this team's done an incredible job fighting the way it has and staying in games because they have had a lot of injuries at critical spots. And as good as Kyle Shanahan is, you can only do so much. And they played a Rams team yesterday that, you and I both agree. We're not gonna argue a lot with somebody that says they're the best team in the NFC right now. I mean, we don't know. There's a lot of football left, but they're certainly one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. Probably one of the top 2, them and Philly. So I think that the 49ers are doing a admirable job with what they have to put out on the field right now. And yeah, you are young. You do have to play young players when you get injuries, but it's not like you can't build the depth that you could back in the day. So I give them credit for their effort, their coaching, and they battle, but they're just not good enough for it.
I'm with you. They're not good enough. One team quickly before we get to our best bets here, Marty. Do the Broncos practice offense during the week? Are we confirm that? Do we have someone who's there who can confirm that the Broncos practice during the week? I watch them play every game, and I don't know. They don't know they practice at all. What do they do? It's an offense that looks like they just don't trust the quarterback at all. I know you're higher on Bo Nix. I think I am, and they've won 7 games in a row. But man, I mean, it's 1-point win. It's a 3-point win. It's a 3-point win. It's a 2-point win. I just do not buy this team, Marty, at 8-2. I'm sorry.
Well, their defense is awful good, and I think that I give a little bit more credit on offense than you do. Listen, is this their year right now? That Bo Nix is still a young quarterback, second-year quarterback. See, I go back in the day, Geoff, where quarterbacks might not even play their second year. You give them time to grow and learn first before they go. I mean, it's like the Green Bay approach. But I think Denver's a really good football team, and I think that they are defensive driven, and they know that, and they're going to play off their defense. Right now, I think Sean Payton is playing complementary football with his offense and just trying not to put his defense in bad situations because he knows they can win games like that, especially against a Raiders team yesterday that's just not very good.
The Raiders are very bad. But what hopefully is very good as our best bets presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours, Marty. What do you like for this week?
All right, I got 2 teams playing each other that I can't pick, so I'm going to pick one. The other probably will win, but I like the Falcons giving 3.5 against the Panthers. They lost 30-0 at Carolina in their first meeting. I just think that yesterday you saw some things with Bijan and Algiers being a really dominant 1-2 punch. Drake London's getting better and better every week, and so we didn't talk about Sauce Gardner. Basically covered him. And did a really good job, but I think he is a real weapon. I do worry about the Panthers' rushing attack, but I like the Falcons giving 3.5 at Atlanta.
I like the under in Chiefs and Broncos 43.5. It's not up yet, but I like the Chiefs actually first quarter if you can find it. Chiefs off a bye. They just lost. They're great off a bye. The Broncos have been terrible early in game scoring. They just have. They've done a lot of the bulk of their scoring, Marty, to end the game when they sort of get things going a little bit. So I think Kansas City starts fast this game. It's a big number, 3.5 for a road team in Denver. It's a tough place to play, but the Chiefs absolutely need this game. It's a big, important game. I think first quarter is the way to go. But I think neither teams really score a ton, right? Kansas City against that defense, right, but also Denver against Kansas City. Denver doesn't run the ball very efficiently, even though they have a good offensive line. I don't think they're going to throw the ball very well in Kansas City as well. So I like the under in this game. If you like our show, you can give us a rating and a review. You can subscribe on YouTube. It's free to do that. Please do that. We have shows on Monday. We have shows on Thursday. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. We'll be back on Thursday. Take care, everyone.